much like a crack dealer. I got some good shit you're going to like. This edition is with Popeye Jefferson of Down the Rabbit Hole, another fine radio show. I'm really glad I got a chance to interview him here. And you're going to taste it. Let's do it. Go! We got Popeye on the line. How you doing, Popeye?
How's it going, Scott? How are you?
Pretty fantastic. Other than I just tweaked my back a little bit. You have some experience with that? I throwing that thing out?
Well, yeah. When you if you hurt your back, man, forget about it. That screws your whole day up. You can't move. You can't sit. You can't do anything. Doesn't matter. Even breathing hurts.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid excess pain. I've already taken some Aleve and that sort of thing, and maybe a hot water is in my future. But it's a nice little precursor to doing it. Truth-related interview. It's like physical truth. Like you can't hide from it. So,
right. It's like a shot in the back, as it were. Right.
Yeah. It's a nice little stab. A nice little.
By the way, you should try magnets. I know this sounds crazy.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is a yoga teacher, and one of her fellow yoga teachers found out that I had a couple issues, and she gave her these magnets. She's whatever or company owns it or whatever. She sells these things, but she gave them to my wife because she's like, here, she's friends with her. She said, just give these to your husband, let him try. And I used them. I put them on, and dude, I got to tell you, amazing. It's amazing what natural stuff will do as opposed to chemicals, because I've been down the painkiller route and all that other stuff, and that after a while you just don't want to tolerate that stuff because it's no good for your body over a course of time, right? So if you want to look down like a homeopathic remedy for that, try magnets, or believe it or not, acupuncture and a chiropractor. That I definitely believe.
I'll probably put in some more work with the chiro around the way. When you say these magnets, like wrist bracelets sort of stuff, right? What are they called that you use?
I don't remember. I'm trying to see if I have the package laying around on my desk here, actually, so I can give you the name. But they're just little magnets. They have ones I've seen where you can get the little bracelet to wear on your wrist. These have little Band-Aids that hold them on, so you can pretty much stick them wherever you want on your body. That's why it's easier to put these like on your back and stuff. My wife has an issue with one of her shoulders, and she put them on, and they're not huge, they're tiny little magnets, and she put one of them on her sore spot on her shoulder, and within about 15 minutes she was like, wow. I mean, she could move her arm, and I know it's not a joke. I know she's not pretending to sell them because she's not making any money. She's not selling them. She just happened to bring them home and offer them to me. So, and then I had looked into the use of magnets before for pain relief and stuff, and I have seen the evidence to support the fact that they do work, but I had never actually tried it myself. Now that I've tried it myself, I can honestly say it works. So if you from one pain sufferer to another, check it out. I think you'll find it if it helps you out. I hope it does, because being in pain constantly sucks, man. Especially when you're trying to do interviews and stuff, and you do a lot of production work in your interviews. I've listened to a few of them, so it's not easy sitting at a computer doing all this editing and recording and the interview itself with a bad back. I know how that is, man.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. Who would have thought that doing something with so little movement could be difficult? And I think it's related to sitting at computers for so many years, and just working into that messed up posture and not sitting right. It's just amazing that sitting could mess your body up when it's like it's what we do most of the time. If you can't sit right, it's just it makes you despairing for doing everything else right. But
I can honestly tell you, it's taken a physical toll on my body.
Just doing your show.
Yeah, over the past 6 years, running the site, teaching myself video editing, graphic design, all that, because I don't have anybody to do that for me. And since it's all volunteer, what I do,
right?
We don't get paid. We don't have any income. We don't sell anything. So I don't make any money off of Federal Jack, my website. The only thing once in a while we get donations, and if we do, that's cool. I usually send out free DVDs or flyers or whatever I have if somebody donates a couple bucks, as a way of saying thank you. So we really don't sell anything or make any money. So it's hard to hire a graphics designer or somebody, So I have friends that do graphic design, and what I did was I went and got the programs myself that I needed, and then they helped me, if I had a couple questions here or there, and then most of it was self-taught. Just, honestly, YouTube. You want to learn how to do stuff, go on YouTube. There is a ton of tutorials on YouTube. You could literally, with a YouTube downloading program, and if you get an external hard drive, you could make a little tutorial folder in the thing and have all different types of tutorial, how to garden, how to fix cars. If you have a certain type of car and you're not really mechanically inclined, but you think you could, you're like, oh, I could do something to fix my car if I only knew how. Mm-hmm. YouTube it. You'd be surprised what's on there.
Yeah, that's how people learn stuff nowadays. They go to school, they don't really learn anything, and they say, oh, geez, I need some supplements in my knowledge. Let me just look it up because someone has uploaded something about how to do whatever random arcane thing you can think of, from lighting fires with sticks to, disassembling a Volkswagen and putting it back together. So
you're right.
There's something out there.
The internet is awesome.
It is. It has been good to us, although there's definitely a dark side to it, and hopefully we could explore that a little bit. Let me ask about your show, of course, the reason you're on here in the first place. So you're Popeye. You have a show called Down the Rabbit Hole, or DTRH, and it's on Orion Radio, correct?
The Orion Talk Radio Network.
Orion Talk Radio Network. Just tell me a little bit of background info on the network and how long you've done your show and just what inspired you to get into it in the first place.
Well, I've had Federal Jack, my website, federaljack.com, for I've been doing it since 2006. Okay. And about almost 2 years ago now, coming up on 2 years, a little over a year and a half, people kept telling me, even longer than that, people kept telling me to do, you should do radio, And I said, yeah, but none of these big radio networks would hire me to talk. They wouldn't let me on there. I said, yeah, but what about internet radio? And I didn't even know internet radio existed. I was like, what's that?
Right.
And they were like, you've never heard of internet-based radio? And I said, no, I've heard of podcasts and stuff like that. But, I mean, this is all in its infancy as it is now. I mean, this was just when it was first starting to really become popular, maybe a year or two into internet-based radio stations,
Yeah, sorry, go.
No, so I just, I was like, all right, sure, whatever. If somebody would give me a spot. I mean, I don't know anyone, right? I'm just doing my website. I'm not doing this for popularity. So one thing led to another, and the owner of Orion at the time, it was the network wasn't even what it is now. It was so small. We had like maybe 5 or 6 listeners live. It was literally, he was just starting it off. He was trying to fill some, he had like 1 or 2, maybe including his own show. I think there was a total of 3 live shows, 3 or 4 maybe live shows. And he was trying to find some good broadcasting. And I had been a guest on a couple different shows that he'd heard, and including one on his network. So he asked me, he said, would you like a slot? And I said, sure. And I started off on Sundays doing 2 hours, and within like 4 months, I was doing 3 days a week.
And you do
now? I do 4.
Yeah, you do 4 days a week now for a total of what, 8 hours?
8 hours of radio at a minimum, because I'm as fate would have it, I usually end up filling in for somebody, or
right.
If somebody doesn't show up, we won't leave dead air in the network. And if I'm around, I'll just hop on air and do my thing.
And being a guest on other people's shows like this, even not the same network, but yeah,
that too. Well, no, even if it's on a different network, I mean, it's still it's still doing radio. So at the end of the day, it's, however many hours, doing interviews or whatever else. But honestly, I like it. I could jib jab forever and I could talk someone's ear off. So, as long as people will, if it's a good conversation, even if someone's trying to be combative, I like debate too. As long as it's not filled with logical fallacies and things like that. But if it's a realistic debate, I don't mind somebody having a differing opinion. That actually makes for good conversation.
Not filled with logical fallacies. So I guess you don't engage in debate in America.
Yeah, not with most people, no.
Right. So that's a severe limiter. So
big one.
Yeah, and so a lot of sitting, a lot of doing this radio stuff, and you seem to come from this school, this tradition. It reminds me of another guy I've interviewed, Jack Blood, where you just talk. I don't want to call it ranting because that has a negative connotation, but you just go. You'll just talk for an hour and a half, to the mic, just projecting your thoughts out there. What do you find gives you the ability to do this rather than having to supplement it with a lot of clips or even interviews or whatever? What's behind this just stream of consciousness?
I've always been like that since I was a little kid. When it comes to something I'm interested in or something that I'm learning or self-educating about, once I fill my head with it, I have this insane urge to share it with others, to the point people get mad at me sometimes. When I was younger, I perhaps maybe didn't come off. Now that I'm a little older and wiser, I try to come off not condescending, not trying to come like I'm better than you, but when I'm younger, I think just the way I would come across sometimes might have sounded like that. So when I would try to share information with people, they would get agitated and pissed at me like I was like, oh, you think you know better. But in reality, it's just I have this urge where if I know something and I find it interesting, I assume that other people, if they knew the same information, would find it interesting. So I guess that's one of the things that drives me. And I just want to, at the end of the day, I guess I just want humanity to evolve. So that's a big driving force right there.
Yes. Assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups, as they say. So hopefully there hasn't been too much fucking up in terms of people not responding. So in other words, hopefully people have felt the message on a certain level coming from you. Do you get a lot
of that? By the way, that's my favorite phrase. I tell that to people all the time because people, especially even in this truth community, dude, people assume the living crap out of things. They really do. They you'll even on Facebook, I could post a picture of something just for the picture value, not for whoever's account it came from, just for what it says in the picture, face value. And people will try to find 16 different reasons why I shouldn't have posted the photo. And it's like, are you kidding me? Just take it for what it says. It's a picture. I'm not trying to... But nope, everybody's got to try to dissect things. And, it gets frustrating sometimes. You know how it is.
Yeah, well, if you post a picture from the Vatican or something from their account, you're a Vatican assassin, coadjutor. Why? How could you be posting that? You're working for them. Or whatever they say to you. I'm sure you've gotten that kind of feedback, at least from some corners.
Yeah, well, now what I do is if it's a picture, I agree with the picture, but maybe I don't know who's posting, whatever group is posting it. I'll take the photo, I'll copy it, and then I'll re-upload it.
Oh, okay.
To my account. It's much easier that way. And I mean, I don't share too many photos anyway, and it doesn't matter what you do, because to be honest with you, even if you put up, no matter what you put up, there's going to be someone that criticizes it, right? There's always the critic, no matter what.
Yes, and I think this is the dark side of the internet that I mentioned before, which is just the hate comes out, the disbelief comes out, just the fuck-ups reign supreme. And The trolling, yes. It's like
the douche trolls. They're out all the time.
The trolls used to live under bridges, and now they just live in front of a computer to mess with the world of people actually doing something.
They live under the virtual bridge on the internet super, or the information super highway.
Yes, that's right.
They've just erected toll bridges on the information superhighway. And the trolls are unbelievable. And a lot of them are government. And that is true.
Yeah.
When people say that and they say, "Oh, come on, you guys are crazy conspiracy theorists." No, dude, come on. Go look it up. The Air Force has, and the Army too, they have a program that one person can be 10 different people on the internet at the same time. So you can be 10 different YouTube accounts as one person making negative comments and stuff. So it does exist.
Yeah, imagine a government unit of 8 people. How many accounts they could have?
It's like 80 people right there. It's 80 different negative comments coming at you.
Yeah, and such things like if a group like the Mossad are known to be the best computer people in the world, the greatest hackers, and everything along those lines. Just imagine what they could do to any random individual's website or account, page. I mean, they could make it look really bad if they wanted to.
Oh yeah, the IDF, Mossad, and I would even say the cyber division or whatever they call it over at the IDF. They have some pretty talented hackers. I know because they've attacked our server back in the past. So
sure, and it's a perfect setup with how they get people, right? Like you could be a computer criminal, and then they catch you, and then they just hire you.
They do the same thing here. The CIA does it.
Right.
I had a friend of mine recruited by the CIA. He turned him down, but this was like 10 years ago when I was in the military. He was a hacker. Before he was in, he had gotten arrested for hacking, and he had to deal with the cops and the FBI and all this other stuff. And he ended up I don't remember if they dropped the charges or whatever the deal was, but part of the thing was part of the deal was he needed to. It was pretty much like go to jail or join the Coast Guard. He had two options. You know what I mean? So he joined the Guard, and I was chatting with him one day on base, and he was telling me, "You see that little old man over there?" And this little old dude that worked on the base. He was very quiet. You'd never think anything twice about him. He had to be in his 70s, white mustache, glasses, white hair. He'd always walk around in his little khaki pants. You'd never think anything. You'd never think twice about this guy. You'd look at him and be like, "Oh, he must be, must be some civilian employee, whatever." And he had some official title in the base, but it wasn't. It was like some BS title, whatever the hell he was supposed to do. And you'd always see him milling around. He was a CIA recruiter, and the guy's job was to check people out on the base, in the Guard, different ranks, going from your lowest rank all the way up to the highest, to see who would be a good ad for the CIA. And he approached my friend, and he said my friend's sitting in the galley eating lunch one day, and he comes up to him and sits down at the table and starts to talk to him, lays out this file folder, and it's got his record in it, his arrest record from before he was in the Guard. And he's like, "What the hell?" And he's like, "Yeah, look, I'm with the CIA." Showed him his credentials, my friend, who I have no reason to believe was lying to me, because the guy's never lied to me. He's not one of these people that makes up stories, you know what I mean?
Right.
He's very honest. It had happened not too long before he had told me about it. I mean, he was still kind of pale over the thing, and he was just freaked out because he was like, this guy knew everything about me, and I don't know who he is. And he claims he's from the CIA, he had credentials, and he was trying to recruit him. And he told him, "Don't open your mouth and tell anybody else." Basically, and I was the only person he trusted, so I was the only person he told, as far as I know. And because no one else ever said anything, and he never said, as far as I know, he never told anyone else. And it was between him and me, but he was freaked out about it. He turned the guy down, and the guy gave him a couple days or whatever to think about it, and he turned it down because he was freaked out. Because he's like, he realized once you go to work for the CIA, so people that do nefarious things for them never end up retiring in a big house.
There's no easy out.
Yeah.
Yeah. They get retired. They don't do the retiring. And yeah, that's got to shake you up, just seeing how readily they have access to your entire life history and throwing it down there on a table in front of you. That would shake, especially if you have arrest records and all that. There's always these CIA type guys embedded in the military stables. Wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, and usually like that's what they are. Is they're in there on bases and stuff as either they might come in under a rank, but most of the like a military rank, but most of the time they'll come in as a civilian, and even if they're CIA, a lot of times they won't even announce that they're CIA. They'll have some other BS title or reason for being there. A lot of times they're like, case in point, the old man on the base. He really didn't do anything, but you didn't realize that until you looked further into him. When you saw him putzing around the base, you just figured, oh, whatever, and you'd say, oh, who's that? And there were people that were like, oh, that's Mr. So-and-so, he does this or that, and they really believed that was some position that he did. But he didn't do anything. He was a CIA agent, and that was his job.
And they're, of course, going to use people that you wouldn't expect, just like that guy.
Well, yeah, they want you to. It's like you'd never expect the lowly old janitor to be the mastermind of the robbery, right? But usually that a lot of times that happens to be the case. And then when you look into the guy was extremely intelligent, and people go, "Wow, we never knew that about him." Yeah, because you looked at him as the janitor and thought he was a moron. So. It's one of the oldest tricks in the book, Yeah, you get people to think less of you so they don't expect anything from you, and they put you, on the back burner, and it takes your opponent, your enemy, whatever, off guard. Because now they're not, they're not guarded around you. They let their guard down around you, and it's easier for you to strike. It's one of the oldest tricks in the book. It's
a key tenet of the art of war, I would say, right? Masterful deflection.
Yep.
And redirection. Now, sticking on this theme, so you were in the military. If I'm not mistaken, you said you were in the Marines, correct?
No, I was in the Coast Guard. Everybody always thinks I was a Marine. I tried to join the Marines. They wouldn't let me in. Before 9/11, they wanted me hardcore. After 9/11, they didn't, because I have a bunch of tattoos, and after you had so many people joined, because after 9/11, everybody and their mother wanted to be a Marine. Right. So beforehand, they were, they had to pick and choose. They'd be willing to get what you call waivers and stuff, and they weren't willing to do it because I had tattoos that they told me were too gang affiliated, and which they weren't, but in their eyes they were, and I would have had them get them removed. And I got pissed off that I would have had to get tattoos removed to get shot at. So I was like, well, I'm not doing that, and I didn't have money to get them removed. So the only other elite branch of the military, besides the Marines, that I liked was the Coast Guard, because not many people realize, but the Coast Guard actually works in conjunction with the Navy, the Marines, and they do stuff. I mean, I worked where I was. I worked with Marines, Navy, and Army. And believe it or not, the Army actually has more small boats than the Navy does. Navy has big ships, but the Army actually has a ton of smaller ships. It's really strange. When I found that out, I was like, Army, land, and they have more small boats than the Navy, which is at sea. Okay, but that's the strange truth of things. And anyway, I joined the Guard because the Guard has a real unique mission. Not only do they serve in times of war and in combat, but they also do rescue. And I was a volunteer firefighter for 6 years with rescues under my belt myself. So to me, it was also appealing to be able to go out and save people, as well as get into firefights and shoot people and take out the bad guys. I also wanted to be able to save people, but when I was trying to join the military originally, I had it narrowed down to the Marines and the Coast Guard, and at the time, before 9/11, it was, we're never going to be at war again. I don't want to join a branch that I'm going to be bored out of my mind at. And then afterwards, it was like, let's go. I'm ready to go. And now they had all this fresh meat to pick from, so they get choosy, and that's the way it happens all the time. And the guy, the recruiter even told me, he made a smart-ass comment to me. He said, well, if you were here 2 weeks earlier, it would have been different. So I said, okay, well, I want to join the other elite branch that because the Coast Guard is actually one of the most elite branches of the military. They have a very different mission than any of the other branches. And we ended up, we work under, well, I should say, I don't say we anymore because I'm not in, I'm retired, but sure. When I was in, the Guard works under the DOT. Well, it did, now it's not under them anymore, but it works under, at the time when I was in, it was still DOT and DOD, and then they created Department of Homeland Security, so now it's DOD and DHS. Now, unfortunately, the Guard that I served in is not the Guard that's there now. It's drastically different over 10 years, and you can see that the change is really big because of this whole police state, and because of Homeland Security encompassing them. Things have really changed, and it's very sad because it was cool that we were an elite branch and we did stuff, and we worked with the Marines, we worked with SEALs, we worked with like I said, the Army and their small boats and other Navy units and stuff. But at the same time, DHS kind of enveloped it. And it's in my opinion, I don't know, it's turned it into kind of like a little Stasi, SWAT paramilitary organization. Not that the Guard didn't have guns, and like I said, we've engaged in battles since the beginning of the country, but going back to the 1700s. But it's just different. Now it's more like, you know what I mean? It's turning more into the jackbooted thuggery. And it's not the same. And all the branches are turning into that, really. I mean, not that we didn't use them before. I mean, what did Smedley Butler say about the Marines? That they were, they were pretty much the thugs, the paid thugs for the United Fruit Company. Right. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I worked with Marines. I have some of my closest friends are Marines, and I have nothing but respect for the Marine Corps. And I have I have a special place in my heart for them. But just like any of the other branches, everything's being twisted and turned around, and over the course of time, I mean, people don't even realize it. When you first join up, you don't realize that you're joining a gang. You think you're doing the right thing. Remember, kids are targeted. We're 18, sure. 19 years old when you join. I mean, in my case, I was a little older. But even then, still, they played on the patriotic heartstrings. And I didn't trust the government back after 9/11. I said, wow, there's some shady stuff about 9/11. I wonder if they're lying or if they're hiding anything. Like, that's weird. But I still said, okay, screw it, I'm going to serve, because they played on the patriotic heartstrings. So every one of us has a way that they play, whether it's that or a lot of times inner cities. Yep. Kids don't have any other options. It's that or, be a drug dealer.
Yeah, get your ass to college through the military.
Yeah, and they lie about that too, dude. I mean, the GI Bill's a joke. It really is.
And when did you leave the service?
I got out at the end of 2003.
Okay, so it's been almost 10 years.
Yep. When I was officially discharged was the end of 2003.
So 9 years. And so, right, so it's become, it's being eaten by this fascist bureaucracy, even more so than it ever had been since whenever, even since. Oh,
it's a meat grinder, man. With the wars and everything. I mean, when I got out, I was still brainwashed, to the effect of, yeah, we should do this, we should do that, blah, 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 and, bomb this person, bomb that person. But within, I would say, about a year and a half, 2 years of doing my own research and reading, I started to realize that what I was being told on TV and what the reality of the situation on the ground were two drastically different things, and I was hearing things from people coming back, from on the ground, people I trusted. I was reading stuff that was written by people that were coming back, boots on the ground. I trust the Marine corporal or lance corporal or sergeant coming back from fighting in Fallujah more than I trust Donald Rumsfeld or what George Bush has to say. You know what I mean? I trust their opinion over what these guys have to say, because they're going to give me, no BS boots on the ground reporting. Marines and airmen and sailors and soldiers, when you're in a firefight, they're not over there going, America, America, God sheds his grace on thee. That's not what they're doing. They're fighting to keep their friend next to them alive and themselves alive. That's it.
It's more
they're
like
not worried about politics.
Yeah, it's more like they're bumping heavy metal while shelling the shit out of some compound or
exactly. It's rough. I mean, war is hell, literally. So sure. It literally brings out the worst in people. And I'm not condoning any war crimes or anything, but what I'm saying is that when they're in a firefight or something, they're not over there going, I love America and SUVs and Kmart and Walmart and that's not what they're over there doing. And that's this myth that's perpetrated here on the American people, which then swallow it up, and then it's like this vicious cycle. Because then, if your kid's not old enough to be in the military at the start of the war, Lord knows, like Rumsfeld said, it's a never-ending war on terror. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, we went in Afghanistan 11 years ago now, and we're still there. I mean, there's kids dying in Afghanistan right now that were like 7 years old. 8 years old, 9 years old when 9/11 happened.
Yeah,
how crazy is that?
No perspective really at all on how it was at that point.
This is all they know, because when they were kids, we got attacked by Al Qaeda. So Al Qaeda attacks us, right? I'm doing air quotes as I say that.
Yes.
We get attacked, and the only thing these kids know their whole lives, growing up until they're old enough to join the military, is what? Call of Duty video games, shooting video games, right? Battlefield, whatever, all those other military brainwashing through video games by the military-industrial complex, basically, and that's what those video games are. Let's not be, all wishy-washy about it. When people challenge me on this,
yeah.
Well, I play them. I mean, I've played them myself, so I know what they are. You know what I mean? I know exactly what they are. I know people that learned how to shoot, never shot a gun in their life, and they qualified expert when they went through boot camp into the military. Now, a qualified expert, the standards are pretty tight in the military. There's 3 different qualifications. And I know guys, I shot guns my whole life, so when I went in the military, I qualified expert with no problem. But I saw people that had never shot a gun in their life, and they were natural shots, and I said, where did you learn how to shoot like that? Have you ever shot before? Now, there were some people, usually the females are natural shots, believe it or not. Women are actually better at shooting than men. The females in the audience are going to like to hear that, but it's a truth. I used to teach people how to shoot, and the women were faster learners because they're willing to sit and listen, whereas guys are all, you have to chest up and pretend you know everything. Right. So guys will turn off their brain. We do it to ourselves. We sabotage ourselves, right? So women are more intelligent, where they'll sit and they'll open their ears and listen. At least in that aspect. So I find that women, and once they're more relaxed, women are usually better shots than men. It's pretty funny.
I always knew they were so deadly. Now you just confirmed it on a real level.
I taught my wife how to shoot. I took her to a shooting range one day, and I taught her how to shoot. First time, I've taken her out to outdoor ranges and taught her how to shoot rifles and stuff too. But the first time I taught her how to shoot a pistol, took her to an indoor range, and within 20 minutes, she was, she had like a 6-inch group at about 35 feet. With a small little 380 little pocket gun. I was just teaching her how to quick, shoot from the hip. Mm-hmm. And like I said, within 25, 30 minutes, she had this little 5-6 inch group. And I was like, damn. Even the guys I was shooting with, because they have cameras on the range, and I know the guys that own the range, and we went back out, and the guy's like, man, you better never piss her off, because he knew she didn't know how to shoot until I took her in there. And it's amazing, because she was afraid of guns when I first met her. And did not like them at all. And once I took her over to a range and I introduced her to a gun, and I let her pick one of the ones, because you can rent the guns at the range. So I let her pick one, whatever she wanted, and we got her a little 380. We took her out to the range. And I was teaching her how to shoot from, if we were pulling from your pocket and everything else, or if you were, coming on right off the hip, and how to come up onto a target. And she's a fast learner, as most females are. Women are just, it's interesting, but between the two, because like I said, guys we do it to ourselves. Like if you're trying to show me something, even if you don't realize it, subconsciously you're going to be like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So you're taking in like half of what the person's saying. Whereas women, if they want to learn something, they'll sit and be quiet and open their ears more often than not. It's not you can't make a blanket statement, because it doesn't fit just everyone. But more often than not, yes, women are better learners and end up being better shots. So
that's rather incredible. Maybe it's like the lion in the jungle. The women do all the hunting, so maybe that's suited for the human world too.
Never underestimate the female species, I'll tell you that.
I'm trying not to. Really not. What I was just going to ask, excuse me. So where are you located right now, and where are you from originally?
Well, right now I'm located in Miami, Florida.
Oh, okay.
And I originally grew up in New Jersey, right outside of New York.
Oh, Jersey, of course. Everyone of importance is from Jersey, pretty much. Seems like.
Jersey boy to the core.
Yeah, certainly a damn lot of entertainers. I'll tell you that much.
But let me make sure that people understand. The Jersey I grew up in was not this douchebag Jersey Shore, New Jersey that they try to put out, and that's not what New Jersey is really like. Believe me, that gives New Jersey a really bad name. Jersey is not like that. In fact, Jersey, a lot of people think that Jersey is all built up or suburbs like that, but there's actually sections of Jersey that there's nothing but fields and farms and woods. It's beautiful. I mean, the whole state isn't that bad. Unfortunately, large portions of it are polluted now, but the state's interesting, and it's got a lot of history.
Yeah, I mean, even they call it Chemical Alley or something, or a certain part of it, even back in the day?
Actually, where I grew up, not too far from where I grew up, there's a town called Wayne, and it had a building in it that was owned by a company called W.R. Grace, and they had this huge pile of dirt out in the back of the building that was filled with thorium, and it was out there covered with a tarp for, I don't know, about 10 or 15 years. And the building was up, like the way the ground was laid out, it was on a slant, and the building was on the higher part of the elevation. So when it would rain, you'd see the water running through the parking lot, coming over this tarp, past all this dirt in the parking lot, running through the parking lot, down across the street, into the ground, which was attached to a farm, which grew and sold vegetables to all the local people. And the cancer rate in the area that I grew up in is skyrocketing. My own personal experience with it, my mother was 55 and she died of lung cancer. Now, yes, she was a smoker, but she was 55.
Right. Like smoking and being in the area, you think had a compounded effect.
Well, everybody in that area is really sick. And W.R. Grace, when you trace their roots back, I can't make this stuff up. Their roots trace back to IG Farben.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know that name of that company. I couldn't tell you exactly where from, but it's in my head. I've seen it somewhere, and if I've seen it somewhere, it's probably connected to something conspiratorial.
Yep, and IG Farben, if anybody's not sure, is the Nazi war machine. And they were the ones that made that. That's where they made everything. It was this huge conglomerate, the chemicals. The synthetic rubber, all these different companies it was this huge conglomerate, and it was IG Farben, and they made everything. I mean, anything you could possibly imagine, all the different drugs that they were working on, all the different experiments that they were doing, all that stuff, all at the end of the day was sanctioned, through money. Everything came through. IG Farben's connected to all that when you look into history, and when you realize that eventually, they couldn't keep operating under the name IG Farben, right? So it broke up into a couple different companies. Also, Monsanto. That's where Monsanto's roots come from. It's all the same evil people, and Monsanto are the same evil people that brought us Agent Orange.
Yeah, I think a friend of mine was telling me the other day Monsanto has been around since like the 50s, which or around then. They were making all weapons and napalm and stuff during Vietnam, right? And Agent Orange?
Yep, they made Agent. And by the way, there's more than just Agent Orange. There's like Agent Yellow, I think there's Agent Blue, I think Agent Green. There's a couple different colors. The reason why they came with the different colors, because they were all defoliants, but the colors came from what color barrel they were in. And Agent Orange happened to be this very effective defoliant, and it happened to come in the orange barrel.
It's like freaking Reservoir Dogs.
Right, exactly. Kind of, like Mr. Pink, Mr. Blue, Mr. Orange, yeah.
And they're all killers, of course.
Except I don't know if there was any comedy relief, like what's his name, when he was like, "Why do I got to be Mr. Brown? It's too close to Mr. Shit."
Oh yeah, Mr. Pink is complaining about shit, but yeah, I mean, it's like these innocuous. They have these innocuous names, these almost pleasant sounding names for like some incredibly deadly chemical nastiness. Like, Agent Orange, it's orange. It's like the fruit that you eat. How could it be harmful?
They try to give you this innocuous name so that way when you look at it at face value, it doesn't set off a flag and people keep moving on. Because most people take things at face value, right? Most people aren't looking at things
pretty much
from the conspiratorial angle, right? They're not looking at things from the angle of are they trying to kill people? What is this? What damage does this do? If the government says, "Hey, it's healthy for you," well, the government wouldn't lie. The government's there to save us, right?
Yeah, they're there to shepherd things along so you could live your life at maximum dopeness. Now,
What a myth. That's a conspiracy theory that the government is conspiring to help us. Please.
yeah, I mean, they're just at the very best. I guess they're upholding the status quo. That's really their only job. Like, yes, you have to keep things flowing on some basic level, keep the gears ticking. But yeah, it has nothing to do with really improving the lives for the bulk of people. I mean, it's embedded in our whole philosophy. Like, no, we're all out for ourselves. Like, I'm getting mine and screw everyone else. And that same type of mentality, same type of people populate the government and everything else, like businesses and Monsanto and everything. It's I think it's called selfishness or just douchebaggery. It seems to be very prevalent.
Well, you know what I've noticed is when the scumbags, the people in power are scumbags, right? The people at the top, we'll say, in a power structure are scumbags, and they don't follow the rule of law, or they don't follow the Constitution, we'll say, and they break, they violate the Constitution, and nobody does anything about it. They're not held accountable. The lower level scumbags take notice of that, and they go, well, if they're not getting in trouble, they've already set a precedent. So that way, if they get caught, they can go, well, you didn't do anything to him. So why are you going after me? That's going to be their defense.
Right.
And look, you see it all the time. Case in point, did you see the video a couple months back where the guy's walking down the street and he's doing open carry, and I think it was in Pennsylvania, and he's got a right to open carry, and it's not illegal or whatever there, and he's following the law, and the cops bust his balls anyway, and he says to the cop, look, you know that I'm not doing anything wrong. Why are you breaking my balls? Why don't you just follow the Constitution? And the cop responds with, I'll follow the Constitution when the president does.
Oh.
So there you have it. When the lower level scumbags see the upper level scumbags being scumbags, what do? They act like scumbags because, hey, he didn't get caught, so I guess it's okay for me to do it. Monkey see, monkey do.
Right, and we have that primitive apeness inside all of us because the only real leadership is leading by example. That's the only thing people know. That's the only thing they see. And if that's the example you set over and over, you can't help it. It's like schoolyard rules or whatever. It's just it's who do you look up to? If you have to look up to someone and they have a crisis of leadership, as they call it, because they're just doing whack things all the time and not held accountable. Of course, yeah, people, they're going to do, if you can get away with something, you don't think if people could rob a bank and get away with it, they'd do it? It's like, give me a break. Like that's what we have. It's unhinged, unmoored leadership, with air quotes, as I'm putting.
Well, when people question you, if someone questions you on that, right, and they say, "Come on, Scott," you say, "Well, look at your own life. Look at your own life. Take that and look at your, take those that pair of glasses, put that on, and look at your own life and see if you see any similarities. How many times, if you could get away with something yourself, have you done it?"
Right.
And people will go, there was one time I might have shoplifted a pack of gum because I knew I could get away with it at the time. And you're like, okay, well, so if you're not an evil person, right? You don't go out and want to kill kids and stuff, right? No. Okay, so if you're capable of doing something quote unquote wrong, right, like stealing, right? Well, then think about what these people that have no compunction about dropping a bomb on some kid because he's brown in a foreign country will do. Don't put anything past these people.
Yeah, and they keep making little nicks. It's like they make little incisions, and eventually it becomes this giant gaping wound hole.
Death by 1,000 cuts.
Exactly. And because, as we know from this movement or whatever we want to call it that we're in the midst of reality, it's the boiling frog thing. It's never just it's not dropping the lobster or whatever into scalding hot water. You just turn it up a little bit, and then it's 1,000 degrees. And after, not that long. And that's it's almost like a game. It's a sadistic game that they know the end point and they just keep ratcheting it up. And there's no way we don't seem to be able to turn back the dial like even on the military stuff you were talking about, it never really gets tampered down. It always has to keep getting bigger. It's that whole growth philosophy. Like every economy's got to keep growing, police state's got to keep growing, military, everything. Like,
and if the police state keeps growing, that's why you'll keep having these fake terror attacks and things like that, and all this other garbage. And they'll start making new laws to vilify things that used to be free, and they'll tell you it's for your freedom or it's for the kids because the kids have to be protected. When in reality, it's not. It's done for a couple different reasons. One of them being they need to, obviously they need to keep the money rolling in because they need to make the more. Look, politicians can't solve problems. The only way they deal with a problem is to make a law, and it doesn't really fix anything. And
right.
Most of the time, it ends up making them money, right? So there's a little bit of revenue generation in there, but cops don't. What's a cop going to do? Well, a cop's not going to come in and solve any of your problems if they make a law. Is suddenly you can't cross the street on Tuesdays from 5 to 6. How does that save you? Well, I mean, they'll tell you it does. They'll tell you that it's to save the kids because maybe between 5 and 6, more kids get hit by traffic or cars or whatever. You know what I mean? Like they'll come up with 16 different ways to control things. They'll throw all these new laws and stuff at you, but they never really solve a problem. Politicians don't. When was the last time you heard a politician go, we don't need a new law? What we need to do is we need to push for this or we need to push for that, and then urge other congressmen to push for. They never talk about actual solutions. The only thing they do is, well, let's pass a bill. We'll make a bill stating that if you don't like if you don't like cheese on your French fries, you are now a terrorist. I mean, eventually they have to keep doing this stuff because they have to justify the police state existence, right? And the cops have to vilify everything because they have to justify their new toys. Look, when I was a firefighter, we were volunteers, and our chief every year had to fill out a budget. And when he had to fill out the budget, he had to explain to the town manager why they needed that much money from the city each year because we didn't get paid. So we needed a budget to buy equipment and stuff because none of us were paid. So the only thing we got paid bought for us was the equipment we use. All of our training came out of our pockets initially, all that stuff. So, and none of us got paid for doing the job. It was a volunteer basis, which, by the way, a voluntary society type situation is way more preferable than what we have right now because a lot of our problems would be solved. And you wouldn't have the excuse for this police state because you wouldn't have these companies making money or police making money. Well, officials making money.
Explain that a little deeper. A voluntary society, like we know we have a voluntary military.
Well, not really.
To a degree, I was going to say, it's sort of not because they prey on people who are desperate. But you're saying like if more things like fire department and what other kind of stuff should be more moved towards volunteerism? Well,
I mean, there's a lot of volunteer fire departments in this country already. I mean, sure. I would say probably about half of the fire departments out there are volunteer. Most people might not even realize it.
Half, you say?
Yeah, I would say about half of them. There's a lot of volunteer fire departments out there. Many. It's been that way since before they were paid fire departments. The first fire department was created by Benjamin Franklin.
I mean, I knew of volunteer firefighters, but I didn't realize entire departments on that scale were operating that way.
The town I grew up in, we had 2 firehouses, which each house is considered a fire company. So we had 2 fire companies and we had an EMS squad, and it was all volunteer. Nobody got paid.
Right. Yeah. Even, I mean, in the military, they call it volunteer, but they do get paid. Not much, of course, but.
Well, they say it's a volunteer military because there's no draft.
Right.
But come on. I mean, technically, all right, you don't have to openly draft people. All you have to do is you change your fishing pool, right? You go from one pond to another. Are you going to go to a pond that's filled with maybe 1,000 fish, but the pond or it's a lake and it's 8-9 miles across? 300 feet deep and it's only got 1,000 fish. What are your chances of having one of the fish swim by as opposed to going to a pond that's 30 feet deep, 30 feet across, 30 foot across, 30 foot wide, and maybe 10 feet deep, and it's got 50 to 60,000 fish in it? Where do you think you're going to get more fish from?
Yeah, targets of opportunity.
Exactly. So they go to the pool where they can get more fish. And like we were saying before, they target the kids that have no money. I mean, like some of these kids, they get out of high school, and if they're lucky to graduate because the school's not, in a horrible area, or they had a decent teacher that helped them, through, and they graduate with, and the educational system's a joke anyway, right? So Say they graduate and they have some semblance of education, they have nothing left to do but join the military. It's either that or pump gas, because they're not taught any useful skills. At least when I was a kid, we still had auto shop, you had metal shop, wood shop. I don't know how old you are, but I'm old enough to remember when we still had those classes in school. You don't have that stuff anymore. I mean, men don't even know how to change a flat tire on a car.
Yeah, it's taking away people's ability to do stuff, to like make stuff or fix things.
Literally dumbing down the entire society, dude.
Yeah, and I'm a definite victim of that in that sense. I mean, I'm sure they still had it, certain high schools and whatnot, that sort of stuff. By the time I was there, but it was definitely at the very least being phased out, or starting to be phased out, to the total degree. And yeah, it seems like it's just luck. Like if you know how to do stuff, fix a car or whatever, build things, it's just because, your parents taught you, or you somehow fell into it at an early age. It's not just something that everyone knows. Because it's their excuse is the economy. You got to call someone. Your toilet's messed up. You need to call a plumber, electrician, whatever. And it's great for them, but it's certainly the opposite of self-sufficiency, which we're supposed to be all about, right?
When I was a kid, the males that I had to look up to, you could look around. My uncle, he was a truck driver, but he knew how to tear a car apart from, the headlights all the way down to, they're ripping the engine apart and rebuilding it from the ground up. Yeah. My father, the same thing. My father wasn't, my father did, he actually did computers and IT and all this other stuff for IBM. Not IBM. He worked for Eastman Kodak, but he helped design, some stuff here and there, working alongside with people from IBM. Anyway, he was, he did all this software design and all this other stuff. And I'm talking, 25, 30 years ago, when this stuff was nowhere near what it is now. And yet same thing. He knew how to tear a car down and build it back up. The guys that I grew up looking up to, they knew how to do multiple things. They were men's men. You know what I mean? They were men. They knew how to do stuff. Now, I see guys that it amazes me. I mean, again, kudos. There are still guys out there. Again, on YouTube, you'll see a lot of guys giving tips on car stuff and things like that. But I know more. Case in point, when I was younger, I used to work. I used to drive tow trucks, and I used to do accident recovery and stuff.
You're a good tow truck driver.
Yes, I actually was. I used to. I was a good one. I wasn't one of these scumbag tow truck drivers. We actually used to take those guys on. I could tell you some funny stories about. Yeah, we used to take their tow trucks and things when they were trying to steal tows and stuff. Yeah, it was fun. But we used to work for AAA too, and I would go out on calls, and more often than not, I would see women in a skirt, on the side of the highway trying to change their tire when I rolled up. Than guys. I had one guy. He didn't want to get out of the car because it was raining, and I tried to explain to him that I'm not allowed to, nor will I do it because it's dangerous. But for insurance purposes, we're not allowed to leave somebody in the car while we jack a car up on a jack, because if they move, the car can come off the jack. Now, it's dangerous. I wouldn't let them do it even if insurance purposes let me. I wouldn't do it because it's dangerous for me. Yeah. But the guy didn't want to get out of the car, so I wouldn't change his tire. I'm standing in the pouring rain. I'm like, come on, man, you got to get out of your car. He's like, no, it's raining. You can change it without me. I said, no, come on, I'm going to teach you how to do it. And he got mad at me. He was like, excuse me? And I was like, well, this is a thing that I think you should know as a guy. So why don't you come out and I'll teach you how to do it. And next time you won't have to wait for me, and you won't be waiting on the side, because he was whining that he had to wait like a half hour on the shoulder of the highway. Oh, Lord forbid, I should have been phased there as soon as, as soon as the guy's tire went flat. Scotty should have beamed me over there.
He should have.
And because he had to wait a half hour, I was like, well, look, come on, get out and you can learn how to change your tire. Long story short, he argued with me, and I wouldn't do it until he got out of the car. And I made him stand in the pouring rain and watch. And I slowly went through it step by step. I didn't care about getting soaked. And I went through it step by step and made him get soaked and learn how to change a tire. Now, I did it for a reason. I did it on purpose because to me, it was like, how do you call yourself a man and you don't even know how to put a spare tire on your vehicle? That should be like the first thing they teach you before you even get your license. I know women, and most of the reason why the women, you know why? I would say, did your dad teach you this when you got your license? And they would say, yep, first thing my dad taught me was how to jumpstart my car. Taught me about checking my mirrors on this stuff, and taught me how to change a flat tire. Some of them even knew how to change their own oil, but most of them knew at least how to jumpstart the car and changing the flat because their father had sat down and taught them. Now, how many men do that today, dude?
Yeah, you can't even. There's like computer chips and shit running all that stuff, and like you got to get around. That don't
even come with spares anymore.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all of them, or a damn lot of them. I don't think the
sports cars like the Audis, the newer Audi, they have this TT Roadster.
Yeah,
they stopped putting spares on that car a couple years ago, at least now, right? 5-6 years ago, at least. So you drive a $60,000 car, you get a flat, you got to call a tow truck.
Yeah, of course. Take it into the dealership. Take it into a tire store. It's all taking it away. That's self-sufficiency. And I was going to say, by the way, how dare you try to teach someone something, especially in our great land. And also, I'm sure there's plenty of things you could teach me, like along these lines too. I wish I was closer proximity. So we're getting to the end here. Got a couple minutes left. Just wanted to throw something pretty big out there. So, what do you think is the greatest threat to America, and how do we stop it? I know the police state thing is definitely in there, not to answer for you, but what's the 2-minute version of what we really are dealing with and what actions we need to take?
People's ignorance and their buying into the fear porn that is presented to them on a daily basis is probably the biggest thing, because it keeps people out of our natural rhythm and our natural cycle, and it keeps people from thinking. And through that, they're able to pull off all the rest of the stuff, the police state, 9/11, Oklahoma City, anything else you could possibly imagine. All of it, when you look at it, it's done on a base level of fear and control, and people, they're able to be controlled via fear because of their ignorance. So I would say, yes, the buying into the fear and the general ignorance of society today as we know it is probably our greatest threat.
And this plays into the alternative truther type thing too, right? Because that's when the fear porn gets really magnified.
There are some people that you would call a quote-unquote truther. By the way, when you said the word movement before, I can't stand the word movement. I wanted to tell you this earlier. I say this all the time. Yeah. I can't stand the word movement because, again, it's a label. This is just people sharing truth and knowledge. This isn't the truther movement. I mean, the term truther, that's a CIA lexicon that came right out of Langley.
That's mainstream media.
Exactly. And you're right. There are people in the quote-unquote alternative media that they thrive on the fear porn too. They play into – there are some people that use the same tactics that the mainstream does, except they put their own little, tweaks to it and talk about truth. And those people, whether they're doing it consciously or not, I mean, it's not the correct way to go about this. People should never buy into the fear. Don't buy into the fear. Yes, things look scary, but they look scarier when you're afraid. When you start to let go of the fear and you look at things with some logic, suddenly things don't look so scary anymore. You know what I mean?
It can see that way. It's all perspective. It's if you wanna, it's whatever you tilt yourself towards. And we all consume various types of information and different sources and everything, but yeah, man, it's just about having, I don't even want to say having a positive outlook, but just not wallowing in filth and not being a douche about it. Because a lot of people, they start to know something, they learn the truth or whatever they call the truth, and they get very arrogant and they're like, well, I know more than you. Look at everyone else out here.
There's a lot of egos out there, man. Oh
God, yeah. And the ego will find food in almost anything. And
look up the false ego. I mean, the ego itself. If you understand what the ego is, and I urge the listeners to go. I mean, we could do a whole radio show on this in itself. For a crash course, I urge you. I have one of my older broadcasts that's on my archive section. I think it's from January, February, March. So March of this year, I believe I guess I had a count on my fingers to remember what month March was. I think it's from March of this year. It's about the false ego. I did a broadcast about it, but I also would urge you, just as a basic starting point, and then you can use that and the references in there to look into further stuff. Go watch the movie Kymatica by Ben Stewart.
The sequel to the Esoteric Agenda, right?
Yes. And he gets into the false ego a little more in depth. You have to understand what the false ego is, and then that'll help you actually, stopping yourself from falling into that trap. Because it's very easy to fall into that. It really is.
Yep. All right. That's beautiful. We'll end it there. Give the people a little bit of plug of all your stuff, even though we'll link it as well.
Cool. My website is federaljack.com. That's federaljack.com. It's filled with videos, my archives of my radio show, ebooks, tons of articles. I update it daily. It's all for free, so go check that out. And I do a radio show over on the Orion Talk Radio Network, Monday nights, Wednesday nights, and Friday nights, 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard, and Sundays, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. And my YouTube channel is DTRH Radio Archives, all one word, DTRH Radio Archives, all one word. And I'm on Twitter and Facebook, too. You can just look up Fed Jack, or Federal Jack, you'll find me there.
Yeah, I got to link up with you on Facebook there. But yeah, the people, if you just put in DTRH on YouTube, you probably find all your stuff, right?
If you put in like DTRH Radio, it should pop right up with the channel. You should see it. You'll see it should pop right up. And all the shows are titled Down the Rabbit Hole. That's what DTRH stands for. Because the title of my broadcast is Down the Rabbit Hole with Popeye.
And how deep does it go? The question still remains.
I haven't hit bottom yet.
That's right. I don't think anyone has quite yet. All right, Popeye, it's been a pleasure. And that's that. Thanks so much for linking up and talking to me, man.
Thanks a lot, Scott, for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, we're out.
Cool.
Hey, thanks for listening to my show. If you enjoyed it or any of my other stuff, contact me at westsidecater, like catering without the ing, at gmail.com. westsidecater@gmail.com. Talk to me, criticize me, send me some shiz, PayPal me. It's the same address. And let's chop this game. All right. Remix.